Every year, thousands of vehicles roll through government surplus auctions. Old trucks, retired fleet pickups, equipment that agencies no longer need. Most of it is exactly what it looks like. Nothing worth a second glance. But one day, Clinton Chitwood pulled up the camper shell on a Ford pickup he'd just bought at one of these auctions. And what he found inside wasn't supposed to be there. Cameras, computers, a full surveillance setup, still packed and ready to roll. A covert government spy truck had just been sold to the public, and Clinton was about to show the whole world what was inside. Clinton Chitwood didn't set out to build a YouTube empire. He grew up in Monroe County, Indiana, on land his family had worked for 7 generations. His father ran an excavation business, so heavy machinery was never far from the picture. That background stuck. Clinton started C&C Equipment in 2004, dealing in construction machinery, then stumbled into military surplus in 2008, almost by accident. He bought one military truck for himself. A neighbor showed up the next day and bought it right out from under him, so Clinton went back and bought 14 more. That instinct turned into a business. What started as a small Indiana operation eventually grew into something much bigger. C&C ships, equipment to Africa, Asia, Alaska, and Australia. Less than 20% of their buyers are even from Indiana. Clinton and his wife Bridget, who met on a blind date arranged by family, built the yard into one of the most respected surplus operations in the country. Excavators, cranes, military trucks, logging equipment. If it's heavy and it's surplus, there's a good chance C&C has dealt in it. The YouTube channel came naturally. Clinton posts around 2 videos a week, and the channel averages roughly 1.8 million views a month. Viewers come for the equipment, they stay for the finds. And every once in a while, Clinton pulls something out of an auction that nobody saw coming. Government surplus auctions run quietly in the background of everyday life. When agencies retire vehicles, they go through a disposal process. Logged, listed, and opened up to public bidding. Clinton had worked these auctions for years. It's where a huge portion of C&C's inventory comes from. You study the listings, you show up, you inspect what you can from the outside, and, if the price is right, you haul it home. Straightforward. Routine? The Ford pickup didn't stand out. Nothing about it on the surface suggested it was anything other than a retired fleet vehicle that had run its course. It was listed like everything else. Clinton bid on it, won it, and that was that. The assumption, the same one any reasonable buyer would make, was that the vehicle had already been properly processed before hitting the auction block. Agencies are supposed to strip out any sensitive equipment before a vehicle ever reaches public hands. That's standard procedure. But somewhere along the line, that step got missed. Nobody flagged it. Nobody pulled it from the lot for a second look. It moved through the system exactly like every other truck that day, blending in with the rest of the surplus inventory. Clinton loaded it up and brought it back to Indiana with no idea that the most interesting part of that truck wasn't the engine. It was what was hiding in the back. Back at the yard, the truck got a closer look. That's normal procedure at C&C. Every vehicle that comes in gets gone over before anything else happens with it. Clinton worked his way around it, checking it out the way he does with everything that rolls through the gate. Nothing unusual on the exterior. Just a plain Ford pickup with a camper shell on the back. The kind of setup you'd see in any parking lot across the country. Unremarkable. Forgettable. Then he opened the shell. What was inside stopped everything. This wasn't an empty cargo bed. It wasn't leftover tools or forgotten personal items. Packed into that camper shell was a full surveillance setup. Computers, cameras, and monitoring equipment arranged the way someone had intentionally built it out. This wasn't junk left behind by accident. It was a system. A deliberate, purpose-built mobile surveillance platform that had been operating out of the back of a truck that, on the outside, looked like it belonged to nobody in particular. That's the whole point of a setup like this. The exterior is designed to attract zero attention. Just another truck on the road. Meanwhile, everything it needed to watch, record, and monitor was completely concealed inside. Clinton had bought it for the price of a used pickup, and now it was sitting in his yard in rural Indiana, fully intact. Clinton did what he always does when something unexpected lands in the yard. He filmed it. That's the backbone of the C&C channel. No manufactured drama, no scripted reactions, just Clinton showing viewers exactly what surplus life looks like, including the moments that make you stop and stare. A truck loaded with hidden surveillance hardware that had slipped through a public auction completely intact was exactly the kind of find the audience tuned in for. So he walked through it on camera, showed what was inside that camper shell, and put it up. The response was immediate. The video spread well beyond C&C's regular audience. People who had never heard of the channel were suddenly watching, sharing, and trying to wrap their heads around how something like this could happen. Comments flooded in. The idea that a fully operational surveillance rig had passed through a public auction without anyone catching it struck a nerve with a lot of people. For a channel already averaging around 1.8 million views a month, this one landed on a different level entirely. It was exactly the kind of content that travels. Genuinely unbelievable, completely real, and caught on camera by the guy who stumbled onto it. But while the views kept climbing and the video kept spreading, someone outside the usual audience had apparently seen it too. And they weren't watching because they were entertained. They were watching because that equipment belonged to them. A covert mobile surveillance platform isn't built overnight. Whatever agency had operated this truck had put real thought into it. The camper shell acted as the perfect cover. From the outside, nothing. From the inside, a complete monitoring setup. Computers for processing and storing data. Cameras capable of capturing footage without drawing any attention from the street. Hardware that, taken together, formed a self-contained unit designed to sit anywhere, blend into its surroundings, and quietly do its job. This kind of setup isn't science fiction. Mobile surveillance vehicles have been used for decades by various agencies for operations where a stationary camera or obvious presence would blow the whole thing. The truck becomes the tool. Park it on a street, in a lot, outside a building, and it watches. Nobody gives a plain pickup a second look. That's exactly why it works. What made Clinton's discovery remarkable wasn't just that the equipment was there. It was that it was still there, fully intact. These vehicles are supposed to be completely stripped before disposal. The hardware inside isn't cheap, and, more importantly, it isn't meant for public hands. Somewhere in the decommissioning process, this one fell through the cracks in a serious way. Clinton hadn't just bought a truck. He'd accidentally taken possession of an operational surveillance rig that the auction system had failed to catch. After the video went live and started spreading, officials came calling. The message was simple, that equipment wasn't supposed to be out there, and they wanted back whatever was left. It was a direct reminder that even when something passes through a public auction legally, that doesn't automatically mean everything inside it was meant to go with it. Clinton had bought the truck fair and square, but the hardware packed into that camper shell was a different matter entirely. The fact that they showed up at all says something. This wasn't a case of the whole thing quietly disappearing into the internet and nobody noticing. The video had made enough noise that the right people saw it, recognized what was in that camper shell, and moved to recover it. Whatever had already been examined, handled, or documented on camera was out there, but what remained physically was going back. It also raised an obvious question that nobody had a clean answer to. How does a vehicle like this make it through the disposal process completely intact? The system that's supposed to catch these things before public sale had failed in a pretty significant way. No drama, no headlines, just a quiet recovery operation triggered by a YouTube video posted by an equipment dealer in rural Indiana who had no idea what he'd bought until he opened the back of a truck. The spy truck story isn't really about surveillance hardware or government slip-ups. It's about what happens when someone with a sharp eye and a camera stumbles onto something nobody expected to find. Clinton Chitwood went to a routine auction, bought what looked like an ordinary truck, and accidentally pulled back the curtain on a gap in the system that probably nobody wants to talk about publicly. He didn't go looking for it. It just showed up in his yard. That's the nature of the surplus world. Most days, it's excavators and military trucks and routine flips. But every once in a while, something comes through that completely changes the day. C&C Equipment has handled thousands of vehicles. The spy truck remains one of the most talked about. And somewhere out there, sitting in a government auction lot right now, there might be another one just like it, waiting for the next guy to open the back.